So we looked at some example, namely when the function is a constant function, then for every partition the sum is going to be r times b minus a into d minus c, right? Because the function is constant, whatever value you choose in that sub-partition, the value is going to be the constant r into the area of that small rectangle. So the sum is going to give you area of the full rectangle, and so that is the sum. So that says the double integral for the constant function is r times b minus a into d minus c. So this is essentially the picture of that. So the constant function, so height is constant, so that is the volume of that. Okay. So let us take another example. Let us look at the function fxy defined in a domain D. Say that D is a rectangle, say 0, 1 cross 0, 1, where it is defined to be 0 if one of the coordinates is a irrational number, and it is defined as 1 if both the coordinates are rational, right? So this is something similar to the function of one variable. We had a function in 0, 1 where for rational numbers it was defined to be 0 and irrational it was defined to be 1, right? So it is never going to be integrable. So the same example is extrapolated in two variables. So if you look at this, if you look at any partition of the rectangle into smaller rectangles, then in every sub-rectangle you can find a point whose one of the coordinates is irrational, right? However small the rectangle may be, there will be at least one point whose one coordinate is at least irrational. So if you choose that value, your sum is going to be equal to 0, right? So if you choose those points, then the sum is 0. But if you choose one of the points to be, say that both the coordinates are rational, that is also possible. However small the rectangle may be, you can always choose a point inside it so that both components are rational, then the sum will be equal to 1. So if I choose specific points, then the sum comes out either 0 or 1. So that means that sum SPF is not going to have a limit as norm of E becomes smaller and smaller. So this function is never going to be integrable. Now this function is a bounded function. Keep in mind this is a bounded function. It takes only values 0 and 1. So there are bounded functions which are not double integrable. So this function is not integrable. Alright. Integration, essentially we are saying it is a limiting process, right? Limit of something as norm of the partition goes to 0. So whenever there is a limiting process, that outcome is going to be a linear operation. So like one variable, this integration is an operation which is a linear operation and has a property similar to that of the Riemann integral of function of one variable. So we will not prove these properties, we will just state those properties. So D, F and G are functions defined on a rectangle AB cross CD. Then the following hold. Like function of one variable, if a function is continuous, it was integrable. Same property holds for functions of two variables. If a function is continuous on the rectangle, then it is always going to be integrable. So we will not prove this theorem. And similarly, you had for function of one variable, if you subdivide the interval into smaller intervals, then the integrals add up over those subintervals. So same property. If f is a function which is integrable on the domain D, and D is written as D1 union D2, where D1 and D2 don't overlap. So here is something which is we are not defining precisely what does overlap mean. It is understood they have only boundary which is common, right? The interiors are not common, so they don't overlap except for the boundary. Then integral over D can be split as integral over D1 plus integral over D2. So that is additivity over the domains of integration. And this is another property. If you multiply the function by a scalar, and if the function is integrable, then scalar times that function also is integrable and the scalar comes out, right? So alpha times f integral is equal to alpha times the double integral of f. And similarly, if a function is integrable, then mod of that function is also integrable. That also we said is true for function of one variable integration. And integral of, right, you take the integral, take the absolute value that is less than or equal to integral of the absolute value of the function. So these properties all are similar to the functions of one variable. There is another property that if f and g are integrable, that linearity property I said, then f plus g also is integrable, and integral of f plus g is equal to integral of f plus integral of g. That is what is the linearity property. This, along with that property that alpha comes out, that is normally called the linearity property of any operation, right? Multiply by alpha, that alpha comes out, and of the sum it is equal to sum of the operations, that is normally called linearity. And f into g is also integrable. If f and g are integrable, then f into g is also integrable. Of course, you cannot give a formula for integral of f into g in terms of integral of f and integral of g. Even for one variable, one doesn't know. Only there is a special property like integration by parts or something, later on one does something. But at least this is true that if f and g are integrable, then the product is also integrable. And now this is obvious that if the function is non-negative, if the graph of the function is always above the xy plane, right, intuitively, that is what we said, then the double integral should indicate the volume below the graph of the function. So we will formally define it. So if fxy is bigger than or equal to 0 for all points in the domain AB cross CD, and if this function is integrable, then we know that this integral is going to be non-negative, right, because it is sum of, like those sums are going to be non-negative and limit is going to be non-negative, like function of one variable. So this integral is called the volume of volume below the surface z is equal to fxy, bounded by the planes x is equal to a, x is equal to b, and the planes y equal to c, and so that parallelepiped kind of thing. Top is the surface. So that volume, now we can say this integral is the volume of that thing, right? Because that is how we sort of started. Now the problem comes, it's okay that we can define the integral of a function of two variables via limits and so on. For a function of one variable, we saw that the fundamental theorem of calculus is useful in computing the integral. For a function of two variables, how do we compute the double integral of a function of two variables? Are there any methods or techniques which help us to compute this double integral? So the idea is, like functions of two variable, like differentiable properties, we said we'll try to look at the partial derivatives and we try to define differentiability in terms of partial derivatives of the function. And they were properties of function of one variable. So the idea is try to push the problem from two variables to one variable and use the techniques of one variable to compute, to do everything. So use your knowledge of one variable. That is the basic idea. And the theorems, which is called Fubini's theorem, it says, supposing your function is integrable, right? So for example, the function is a continuous function defined on a rectangle AB cross CD. Now it is a function of two variables. If you fix one of the variables, then it becomes a function of one variable on that appropriate interval. And it is a continuous function if the function of two variables is continuous. So it becomes integrable as a function of one variable, right? So supposing you fix the variable x, only vary the variable y, then f, x is fixed x naught, y. Then is a function of variable y and you integrate with respect to y, then the answer will depend on the point you have fixed x naught, the variable you have fixed x naught. So the answer, that integral, depends on x, where x is again varying on an interval AB, right? Function is defined on AB cross CD, you fix x naught in AB, integrate out the variable y, you get an answer which depends upon x naught, which is a point in AB. So this again is a function of one variable in the interval AB. And the claim is that this again becomes integrable as a function of x. So you can again integrate it out, you will get some answer, some number. And the claim is this number is same as the double integral of the function of two variables. So it says to integrate a function of two variables, if it is integrable, say for example if it is continuous, you can integrate one variable at a time and get the answer. So that is a very useful theorem, right? So it pushes the problem on integration of one variable. So let us state that theorem and we'll have a look at it again. So f is the function defined on an interval AB cross CD to R, and let us say it is continuous. Actually one can prove it for even for integrable functions. So let us assume continuity. Now fix x in AB. So once you have fixed, you can treat this function y going to fxy, where x is fixed. It is a function on the interval CD, right? Then this function becomes integrable, okay? So this function becomes integrable. So let me write what it becomes. So implies this integral is on CD. So C to D, f x y dy. This integral exists, right? Now this integral depends on the point x. So let me call this as ax. X belonging to AB, right? So x belonging to AB, you fix x, this is a function of y, integrate out with respect to y as a function of one variable, that gives you a number which depends on x. The claim says that this function, then the second step says the function x going to ax for x belonging to AB is also integrable. This becomes a function of one variable again. This is also integrable, and this integral is same as the double integral of the function. So integral of this is integrable, and okay, it's clear. You have integrated out one variable, you get a function of the other variable, integrate that out also, that is integrable, that you get a number, and the claim is this number is same as, so fxy, integrate with respect to c to d fxy, that gives you the number ax, integrate out ax with respect to the variable x, a to b, that gives you a number, that number is same as the double integral of the function over the rectangle AB cross CD. It's clear to everybody? Yes?
So can we take dx first and then dy?
That is the second part, I am coming to that. We don't differentiate between x and y. Whatever is true for x is going to be true for y also. So that is the second part of it. Good. So now fix y, treat it as a function of x, integrate out as a function of x. Okay. So fxy, integrate with respect to x, a to b, you get a number which depends on the variable y, because y is fixed, that is a function on interval CD. You integrate that. So integrate by with respect to CD, you again get the double integral. Right? So basically this theorem is a very useful theorem. It says if the function is double integrable, or, right, in particular, for example, if it is a continuous function on the rectangle AB cross CD, then to calculate this double integral, you have to just calculate one variable at a time. Fix one variable, integrate it out, then integrate out the second variable, and you can integrate out in any way you like, whether the x variable first or the second variable first. That doesn't matter, right? The condition should be that first of all f should be given to be integrable, right? Integral, double integral should exist, then only these things are possible. So this is what is called Fubini's theorem, that you can integrate the double integral with one variable at a time. So let me just write. So when you are integrating one variable at a time, these two integrals are called iterated integrations of the function f. You are doing iterations, right? You are doing it one variable at a time, so you are iterating the integral. So these two integrals, when you integrate one variable at a time, these are called iterated integrals of the function f over the rectangle AB cross CD. And the Fubini's theorem says that if the function is integrable, then the iterated integrals are same as the integral of the function, right? So geometrically it means that if you want to find out the volume, right? See, imagine like a book, right? You want to find out the volume of a book. So what you can do? You can take volume of each page and add it up. Essentially that is what you are doing, right? When you are integrating one variable at a time, you are finding the volume of each sheet and adding it up. Essentially that is what you are doing. Okay? So it can be found. So either you calculate, integrate the variable y first and then, or integrate the variable y first and then integrate them out. Okay? So both will give you, then sum it up. So this is what the picture essentially says, right? So these are the iterated integrals. Okay? This is the point. For example, you have fixed the point y. When you have fixed the point y, you are moving on this line. X is only moving, y is fixed. So on this point, look at the function. This is the function, right? As you move on this line, x moves. For every point here, you get the value. So that is the function with y fixed. So you are integrating out that variable. That means you are finding the area below the graph of that function. So you are finding the volume of, area of that sheet, right? And then you vary y. So these sheets, you vary and add it up, right? The volume of all the sheets you add up. Similarly, for this one, you fix x. So you are varying only y here. So this is the graph of the function. Okay. Below that, the area. So that is you integrated out to the variable y. So this is your by, right? So this is your by, and this was your ax when you integrate out those things. And then integrate out that to get everything else. Clear? Geometrically also it's very clear to everybody. What is it? Okay. So let me probably, I think for a long time we have not had a look at before even starts you clap. I don't know. Okay. So that is the rectangle over which you are going to integrate, and this is the surface that you get. Okay. At any point x, that is the sheet when you integrate out, and that covers and gives you the volume. Okay. Let us come to now non-trivial part of calculating the integrals, mathematics. Okay. So let us take a very simple example. Look at two functions phi and psi. Phi is defined on an interval AB, psi is defined on an interval CD. Both are functions of one variable. I construct a function of two variables fxy, which is phi x into psi y. So look at a function of two variables fxy, phi x into psi y. It is a function of two variables defined on the rectangle AB cross CD. Let me assume phi and x, psi both are continuous functions. Then this product is a continuous function of two variables. So it is integrable, and I want to find its integral. So let us compute. So to compute its integral, there is a obvious typo. There is no third part of it. Okay, it's double integral. So what is the double integral? I can integrate one variable at a time by Fubini's theorem, right? So it is phi x into psi y. So when I fix the variable x, phi x becomes a constant. So that comes out. So I get inside integral c to d psi y dy. And when you want to integrate phi, then this is the constant now. I can integrate that out separately. So for this particular function, which is fxy, which is product of phi x into psi y, if phi and psi both are continuous functions, then the product integral actually looks like, actually it is equal to product of the individual integrals by Fubini's theorem. Pardon? Oh, actually that is also a typo. It should be d. Okay. Okay. So now let us look at slightly more non-trivial examples. I want to integrate the function x square plus 2y, where d is the rectangle or square 0, 1 cross 0, 1. So we know that x square plus 2y is a continuous function, so it is going to be integrable. I can apply Fubini's theorem. So apply Fubini's theorem, that means to find this, I can integrate one variable at a time. So let us do that one variable at a time. So compute ax, I am going to integrate out y. Answer will depend on x. X is fixed. So when x is fixed, this is the constant, right? You integrate out using one variable techniques. You get this answer, that is ax. Now integrate ax over 0 to 1 to get the double integral. So compute. So that is a double integral. If you integrate out first y and then x. Let us do the other way around and verify that actually we are getting the same answer. Y is fixed. So calculate by. Now x is being integrated and y is fixed. So y is a constant as far as this integral is concerned. You integrate it out, answer will depend upon y, and then integrate that also with respect to y in 0 to 1. So these are simple examples to illustrate Fubini's theorem. So this is when the domain of the function is a rectangle. Right? Now we will like to go slightly further when the domain of the function is not necessarily a rectangle, but it is a bounded set in the plane. Right? So if it is a bounded set in the plane, we can always, so supposing this is the bounded set in the plane, okay, this is the domain of the function, then I can always enclose this domain because it is bounded in a rectangle. Right? So let us take a rectangle which covers it. Okay? And the function is defined here on this domain. I want to integrate. Essentially keep in mind, you want to find the volume above this D. D is the base. over which you want to find the volume. So, but if it is a rectangle, I know how to find it. So essentially you want that the portion which is outside should not contribute anything towards the volume, right? So what we do is we extend our function slightly. We say that define a new function which is f on the part D and it is 0 outside, right, but inside the rectangle. Put it 0. The height is going to be 0, so it is not going to contribute anything towards the volume. So that is the basic idea. So let us do that. So given a function f in a bounded subset, look at a rectangle which includes it, okay, or so define a function, so you can actually extend it everywhere you like, doesn't matter, right? Outside you define it to be equal to 0 and fxy on D. So then this function, take a rectangle which covers D and define, you say that the function is integrable on D if this new function is integrable on that rectangle, right? And define the integral to be equal to integral of the new function on rectangle. One may wonder that will it depend on the rectangle, because I can take different rectangles, right, enclosing, but it doesn't, because you are going to put it 0 outside, so essentially it is not going to matter. One can prove it mathematically, but will not go into those technical details, right? But that is essentially the idea, that put it 0 outside and intuitively that height 0 is not going to contribute anything towards the volume below that surface, right? Yep. What is the need to do all this? Because we have defined double integral only over rectangles. What you could do also is the following. To start with itself, you can take your function f to be defined on any bounded domain D, and then try to divide that domain into smaller rectangles. But then all the domain will not be divided into, some portions will not be rectangles. Then you have to go something like inner rectangles and outer rectangles, and that kind of a thing you have to do probably, right? So to avoid that, all that thing, like inner sums and upper sums kind of a thing, right? So there will be rectangles which will be inside, and then you will have some rectangles which will be covering it fully. So something like upper and lower. So that is another way of doing it. One can do it, but we wanted to avoid that kind of things here. It's clear? So first define on the rectangles, which is very clear, I can do it, and intuitively if you put it equal to 0 outside, then I can find out also, right, by extending the function to be 0 outside. And say that if it is integrable on the rectangle, the extended function is integrable, then integral is equal to that integral of the original function. Clear? Okay. So for the function f, if it is integrable on the rectangle D or rectangle R, then we say the original function is integrable on D, and integral of f on D is equal to integral of f star, the extended function on the rectangle. It doesn't matter which rectangle you choose, it is going to give you the same answer. It is independent of R. So that is essentially, I have already shown you that outside you put it 0, right? So in this portion outside you put it equal to, so f star is equal to 0 on the outside portion. Okay. So this is saying that it is independent of the rectangle and so on. So let us not bother about that. Let us look at an example. How does this help us to compute an integral now? So let us look at a function defined on a domain D. The domain is xy. So x is bigger than 0, y is bigger than 0, x plus y is less than or equal to 1. So what is this portion? It is a right angle triangle in the plane, right? So, and let us take a function which is fxy equal to x square plus y square defined in this domain, right? So here is so let us take a rectangle which is 0, 1 cross 0, 1. That will include, so this is the portion over which you want to integrate D. So I have taken a rectangle which includes it. So what is going to be my function? It is going to be 0 on outside this portion. So the function is going to be f star is going to be 0 on this portion, and it is going to be equal to f on this portion, right? So now let us compute f star, integral of f star over this bigger rectangle, okay? So let us compute that. Okay. F is continuous, so it is integrable, no problem and all that. So integral of f over d is integral of f star over that rectangle, right? Now let us look at f star. For f star, I will apply Fubini's theorem. Okay. So for f star, let us integrate the variable x first and then variable y. Okay. So once you do that, now I want to compute what is f star on 0, 1 for x fixed. Right? I have to compute this value in terms of the given function to compute this integral. Right? So what is this equal to? Up to that line, right? It depends on where are you fixing that point y. Right? So if you are below that, then it is going to be the function f. Outside it is going to be 0. Is it clear to everybody? F star is 0 on that upper portion of that right diagonal. So as long as you are below that, it is the function, original function. Outside it will be. So depending on where is y, okay, y is fixed. So that is what. So this function is the original function if x is between 0 and 1 minus y. As it goes beyond that diagonal, it becomes equal to 0. So that inner integral, so using this I can compute. So this inner integral I can compute now because of this. So that is equal to 0 to 1 minus y. Right? This 0 to 1 I separated into two parts, 0 to 1 minus y and 1 minus y to 1. In this portion I know it is x square plus y square, in this portion it is 0, so it is just this integral. Okay, and this integral now I can compute, so I compute this integral, okay, and find out the value, and now I will integrate that with respect to other variable, right, with respect to y to get the answer to be equal to 1 by 6. Is that clear to everybody what we are doing? Only outside we are putting it equal to 0, outside the domain and computing it. Okay, let us try to have some more techniques of computing the double integral. There is another type of domains over which if the functions are defined is easy to compute the integrals. So that is a slight extension of this Fibonacci theorem. Suppose your domain D looks like points in the plane such that x varies between interval a and b, and for every x in this interval the y variable varies between, it's not between c and d. Earlier if it is a rectangle it is between some c and d, constant functions. Now let us change that c to, instead of a constant function there is a function phi 1x and there is a function phi 2 of x. So for every point x in AB, the y variable, the height is going to vary from phi 1x to some phi 2x, where this phi 1 and phi 2 are continuous functions. So that is the assumption we are making. If your domain looks like this, then you say your domain is a type 1 elementary domain. If your domain looks like this, then you say your domain is a elementary domain of type 1. So what is essentially we are doing? What is the meaning of saying that's y? So look at your domain, it is a bounded domain, so it will lie between some x is equal to a and x is equal to b, right? Your domain will lie between some lines x is equal to a and x is equal to b. You take any point x in between and go perpendicular to that now. Move along the other axis. Then look at the intersection of the vertical line with the domain. So that y starts from phi 1 of x, that part of the vertical line segment which is inside the domain is from phi 1x to phi 2 of y. Is that clear? Let us look at a picture of this. So this is what the picture looks like in general. So your domain will be between some x is equal to a and x is equal to b. Any other vertical line outside this will not intersect your domain at all. Okay? And then for any point x, take a vertical line, right? Take vertical lines. They will go from this boundary to this boundary. The lower curve is phi 1x, the upper curve is phi 2 of x. So at any point inside that x is equal to a to x is equal to b, if you take a vertical line, that the segment of that line is between phi 1x and phi 2 of y. So essentially the idea is these are the line segments which are going to contribute for the domain. So what we should be doing? So we will be integrating over each line segment and adding up. Fibonacci theorem, essentially that is the idea. Okay. So this is called elementary domain of type 1. Similarly, you will have elementary domain of type 2 when you go other way around with respect to the y coordinate. Then y lies between c and d, okay, and x lies between psi 1 of y to psi 2 of y, right? The lines which are horizontal now, y is between c and d. So take any point y and look at the horizontal line that starts with a curve which is psi 1 of y and goes up to psi 2 of y. So let me show you a picture of that. That is elementary domain of type 2. So this is what it looks like, right? So the basic idea again is it goes, this is y equal to c to y equal to d, right? Y coordinate lies between these two. At any point if you take y in between and you take the horizontal line, whatever point you are choosing, if you are choosing x, then you are going perpendicular to x. If you are choosing y, then you are moving perpendicular to y. And look at that line, and that line goes from here to here. And the function, this function is phi 1 of y, and this function is psi 1 of y and psi 2 of y. So for any point y in between, you take any point, it goes from here to here, which is psi 1 of y to psi 2 of y, right? So this is what is called a elementary domain type 2. So there are two types, right? Where x is fixed between a and b, then y varies between two functions, or y is fixed between two limits and x varies between two limits, right? And the theorem says whenever you have such domains, integration is simple, we can calculate. So let me probably before giving you the theorem, let us look at some specific examples. Look at the disk x square plus y square less than or equal to 1 in the plane, the unit disk, right? I can write that unit disk as xy in R2, x goes from minus 1 to plus 1, and for that compute my y from here now, from this formula. Y goes from minus square root 1 minus x square to plus square root 1 plus minus x square. So I have written the disk as type 1 elementary domain. One can write also as type 2 elementary domain. So it's not that a domain will be only of type 1 or only of type 2, it could be of both types. For example, this unit disk is an elementary domain of type 1 as well as of type 2, because now I can take y to be between minus 1 and 1 and look at the x coordinate vary between as functions of, I can compute, here we have computed y in terms of x, we can compute x in terms of y. So for example, you can write that way. So unit disk is a elementary domain of both types, okay? So in the picture that will look like this, okay? So x goes between minus 1 and 1, this is type 1, x goes between minus 1 and 1, and y at any point, if you take x here, then y goes from this point to, so from this curve to this curve, and equation of that curve you know, right? From x square plus y square equal to 1, so this curve you know, right? Plus square root 1 minus, right? You are computing y in terms of x. Similarly, this is plus square root, and similarly, this is type 1, you can write also type 2, right? There, this is y equal to minus 1 to plus 1, and for any point, you will be going from this curve to this curve. Is clear? What are elementary domains of type 1, type 2? Disk is one example. It is of both types. So let us probably look at the theorem. So the theorem says, supposing you have got an elementary domain of type 1 and the function is continuous, then this is elementary domain. It says, we know the function is going to be integrable on this, okay? Then the integral where phi 1 and phi 2 are continuous functions and so on, then the double integral is going to be equal to this integral. Instead of having here from C to D in the Fibonacci theorem, now comes those functions phi 1 to phi 2. So you can think it as a stronger form of Fibonacci theorem or a generalization of Fibonacci theorem, right? Actually, in fact, this is actually called Fibonacci theorem. That is a corollary of that. So, but we have started to state it separately so that idea sinks in. Is it clear? You are still integrating one variable at a time because your domain is such that you are able to separate out the variables in the domain itself. That is a basic advantage. Domain type 1 says x lies between a and b, and y depends only on functions of x or other way around. That's why you are able to separate it out. And similarly, if it is of type 2, right? So basically idea is same. For any point, you will be moving from, so this is the curve, right? These are the two curves, phi 1 and phi 2. So this is the, right, at any point x, you will be moving from phi 1 to phi 2. And that is the sheet, that is the inner integral, right? That is the area below the graph of that function. And this moves up right? It covers everything and gives you the whole of it. So similarly for the elementary type 2 domain, if y is between c and d, okay, and x is between psi 1 of y and psi 2 of y, the same formula holds. You can integrate first with respect to y and then with respect to x, okay. So that you first integrate with respect to y, so you get with respect to x, psi 1 y, and then with respect to y. And this is what the second thing will look like, because this is psi 1 of y and that other thing is psi 2. So at any point y, if you take, you are going to be interested only in, you have fixed the variable y, so it's only a function of x, right? On this is the curve. So you integrate it out and the limits are, now it's not c to d, but it is from psi 1 y to psi 2 of y. That is the only difference that comes. Okay. So that is, now let us look at some examples again. So the basic problem in this will be, given a domain, whether you want to interpret it as a domain of type 1 or you are able to interpret it as a domain of type 2, and accordingly you compute your integral. So that is the basic idea. So let us write, so domain is y bigger than or equal to 0, right? X square plus 2y square less than or equal to 4. So already I have given y bigger than or equal to 0. So from here I can compute how much x lies, right? So x lies between minus 2 and 2. Once I know what is x, I can compute y. What are the limits for y? Y goes from 0, is bigger than or equal to 0, and the second one comes from here. It is less than or equal to 4 minus 2y square square root, right? Clear to everybody? So I can write this domain as a type 1 domain as follows. X goes from minus 2 to 2, x goes from a to b, y goes from phi 1x to phi 2 of x. So y goes from phi 1x to phi 2 of x. Once that is known, the function is given, I just have to integrate one variable at a time. So integrate y with respect to y between these limits. So this is what it says, okay. So between minus 2 and 2, and it goes from, and you want to go perpendicular or parallel depending on you. So here if you want to go, this is y between 0 and minus, then you are going between these two limits, or you can go also this way. Choice is yours, okay, whichever way you want to go. So we wrote it as type 1 domain and computed that. I can also write it as a type 2 domain and compute that. So you can write both ways, okay. So the basic idea is writing, so I said we can also express this as a type 2 domain where y goes from 0 to, right, upper part, y goes from 0 to square root 2, x goes from left to right. So that is a minus square root 2 to plus square root. So basic problem is writing your domain appropriately as type 1 or type 2, and you decide which one you want to use. You want to use type 1 domain or you want to use type 2 domain, right? Depending on what kind of function it is, what kind of integrals come up. So if you compute the other way around, again it comes out to be, okay. So let us summarize what we are saying. Suitable choice of order is important, because one choice of order may give you a simple integral to compute, other may give you, why we prove that is equivalent, you can, whichever way you like you can compute, because one may be easier than the other, right, sometimes. So let us look at some example if it is there. So let us look at this example. We want to compute this integral where D is the region bounded between the parabolas y equal to 2x square and y equal to 1 plus x square, right? The region is between these two parabolas. So what you want to do? You have to interpret this as a type 1 or type 2. Choice is yours. So y is equal to 2x square, y is equal to 1. So what will be your first step? Find the limits for at least x, right? So solve these equations, put them equal, solve those equations, find the limits for x, and then try to draw the graphs of these two parabolas. So we have found the limits for x. X varies between this and this. For every point x, it will go from one parabola to other parabola. So you know how much y varies from phi 1x to phi 2 of x. So that is the way you should go about it. So step 1, plot the region. Okay. Once you have plotted, you see that it lies between these two lines. X is equal to minus 1 to x is equal to plus 1. And for any point here, if I take the vertical line, it goes from this parabola to this parabola. So you know what is phi 1x, what is phi 2 of x. Once everything is known, once you have written the region properly as a type 1 or type 2, rest is only computing using functions of one variable. Okay. So Fubini's theorem is the key for these computations. So step 2 would be taking the vertical lines and finding. Okay. So always when you have found the limit for x, you move vertical perpendicular to x. If you have found the limit for y, then you move perpendicular to y. So keep that in mind to find out the appropriate. So this is what it comes out, x between minus 1 and 1 and y between 2x square and 1 plus x square, and then you integrate out one variable at a time. So let me not bother much about that. Right? So the integrals are simple ones. The main is, let us look at this problem. X is between 0 and 1 and y is between 0 and 2x. Okay? So, and the function is e raised to power x square. fxy equal to e raised to power x square. It's already given as a nice domain, right? X is between 0 and 1 and y between phi 1 of x, which is identically 0, and phi 2 of x is equal to 2x. So let us compute, let us integrate it out. Okay? So I integrate y first. This is a constant as far as y is concerned. A is power x square, x is fixed. With respect to y you are computing. So this comes out, integral of 1, that gives you 2x. Now is nice, 2x e raised power x square, and you can compute it out. Right? Now let us try to write it the other way around and see what happens. If you happen to, let us write it as a type 2 domain, y goes, it is a triangular domain, so y goes between 0 and 2, x goes between now this. The same domain, I can write it also as a type 2 domain, type 2 region. So let us compute as type 2. So this is what will come, e raised power x square dx, right? I have to compute with respect to x first. Now I am stuck, because there is no way I can compute using fundamental theorem of calculus in a closed form what is e raised power x square. I know integral exists, but there is no formula for that, right? So I will not be able to find an answer by this method if I use the other way around. Only I will be able to get probably an approximate answer. That too, if I get an approximate answer for e raised power x square between y and this, use that approximate and then calculate approximately and so on. So you see that order of integration becomes important in computing double integrals, suitable choice of order of integration. Okay. Now supposing your region is not of elementary type 1 or type 2, then what you do? Then the basic idea is, if it's a complicated domain, you try to draw lines parallel to x-axis and y-axis and split your domain into smaller domains which are of type 1 or type 2. So your domain looks like a union of type 1 or type 2 elementary domains. Over each one of you compute and add it up. So that is the basic idea. So split, for example, a situation like something, this could happen. So this will give you domains of one type or the other type, right? And you can compute. So if a specific example, for example, if you are trying to compute over a region which looks like this triangle, right? Then I can look at it one way, that it lies between these two lines, x is equal to minus 2 and plus 2, right? Now if I look at it like, and if I take a point in between, I move perpendicular, then what happens? If I move perpendicular, then I have to go from here to here, but if the point is here, then it goes from here to here. So the function changes, that phi 1 and phi 2x don't remain the same throughout the region. So what I have to do? I have to split it into two parts if I want to do that, right? This part and this part separately. So from here to here, right, x between minus 2 and 1, it will be going up to this, okay? And the other part, it will be going from here to here, from this curve to the same height. So sometimes you have to split, right, if you are forced to do that variable first or second, okay? Right, so this is type 1 and type 2 and splitting. So that is what I have written. You can split it into two parts and integrate. And now whatever we have done for two variables should have a natural extension to three variables. So instead of two signs coming, a third sign will come. So your domain will be a domain in R3 now, right? So domain will be in R3. So we'll not define what is a triple integral. Intuitively, idea is clear. Domain is split into smaller parts, points are taken, multiply, sum, and try to take the limit, right? But let us try to see how do you compute these triple integrals. So let us assume, right? Intuitively it's clear, one can extend the notion of double integral to triple integral. Point is, how do you compute that? Okay? So let me quickly go through some of it. So like rectangles AB cross CD cross EF, that could be a domain. Then you can define triple integral over that domain. And similarly, you can take a cuboid and put it 0 outside and do it for general domains also. And same properties hold, continuity and so on. So let me not, you can take the sum and take the limit and so on. So what is the corresponding Fubini's theorem for triple integrals? I would like to state that at least today, so that next time we can look at examples. It says, like for two variables, for three variables, you can fix one variable at a time. Or you fix two variables at a time, you want to go to function of one variable. Right? If it's function of three variables, if you fix one variable, you get a function of two variables, and you know how to compute double integral of function of two variables. That again is by fixing one variable, making it a one variable. So we are fixing one variable at a time and going to integrate. And Fubini's theorem says, if your function is nice, say for example it is continuous and or integrable, then everything is okay. So let us look at this very general case in the beginning itself. Your domain looks like x, y, z. Say that for x, y are in a region R. X, y in a region R in R2, right? So some region in R2. And where is z? For a point x, y in R, z is some height, right? That is your domain. So z goes from a surface gxy to hxy, similar to function of type 1 elementary or type 2 elementary in the plane. Here the z coordinate goes from a function of two variable at the bottom to a function of two variable at the top, right? And the domain lies at a, right? And xy lies in some region R in the plane. So you can think of your domain is such, you can project it onto the xy plane. Your domain is projectable onto the xy plane. The projection is the region R. And for every point R, to go to that point in the domain, what you do? You go that much height, z, right? To be inside the domain. And what is the height? That height is between gxy to hxy. It varies from a surface below to a surface above. So this is that one special type of domain. Suppose it is of this type, then the Fubini's theorem says that you can integrate a function of three variables by integrating, you are fixing here x and y. In this, you fix x and y, it becomes a function of only one variable, right, z. So integrate z between those two limits of z, z goes from one height to another. So this gives you an answer which depends on x and y, is a function of two variables. Integrate that function of two variable over the region R, which is a projection onto the xy plane. And this, whatever answer you get, it is a double integral. That itself can be further split using your double. Supposing this R is of type 1, where x lies between something and something and y lies between psi 1 x and psi 2 of x, then this double integral can be further split into more parts. So let me just write that finally. So this is what the picture looks like. This is a domain, projection is R, for every point here that is the height. So this is the top surface, this is the bottom surface. And it says that you can write your triple integral as this also. In case that outside that region R is of type 1, x goes between a and b, y goes from phi 1x to phi 2 of x, and z goes from gxy to hxy, right? So if your domain is of this type, then Fubini's theorem says you can compute your triple integral also, right? So main problem would be, given a domain, how to write in this form. Like for double integral, you write as type 1 or type 2 integrals. So let me stop here.